Joining us now is Ted Cruz. He's the United States Senate candidate from Texas. This is the Ted Cruz that pulled perhaps the biggest upset in Republican politics in Texas since Ronald Reagan in 1976. Came from nowhere, was outspent, I think, 17-1, and was able to become the nominee over the establishment candidate. So, Ted, welcome.
John, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
In this campaign, you basically started out in single digits, and you caught lightning in a bottle and galvanized conservatives all over the state. You were the darling of the Texas Tea Party and many outside groups. How does Governor Romney capture what you were able to attain in Texas?
Well, in Texas, it was certainly an extraordinary journey. As you noted, when we started a year and a half ago, I was at 2% in the polls, and actually the margin of error was 3%. I mean, there was hardly a soul in the state of Texas that thought we had a prayer. And what we did in the campaign is we worked 18 hours a day with the grassroots, and we saw conservatives unite across Texas. And nationally, we saw Republican women and Tea Party activists and grassroots leaders all come together, thousands and thousands and thousands, and they worked and reached out and spoke to their friends and neighbors, and they knocked on doors, and they made phone calls. And that passion and energy, as you noted, we were outspent dramatically, but it was the passion and energy from the grassroots that carried us to victory in the Republican primary. Now, I think that same energy we're seeing not just all across Texas, but I think we're seeing it all across the country. And the reason is that we are seeing, I'm convinced, a great awakening. We're seeing millions of Americans rising up saying, look, we don't want our country to go broke. We are not okay with a president that grows our national debt to $16 trillion, larger than our economy. We're not okay with a government takeover of many aspects of our economy and of our everyday lives. And this awakening is millions of Americans saying, we want to get back to our founding principles, to limited government, to entrepreneurship, to small businesses, and to individual liberty. And I think that passion, that energy on the ground is present in Virginia. It's present all across the country. And I think that passion and energy is, in November, going to carry Mitt Romney to victory and to defeat Barack Obama in the presidential election.
So, Ted, you're confident that Governor Romney can capitalize on that sort of momentum?
I am. I have spoken with tens of thousands of Tea Party leaders throughout Texas and all across the country. And I have yet to meet a single Tea Party leader who is not going to support Mitt Romney, and the reason is simple. The stakes are too high to do otherwise. A second term under Barack Obama, I think, would visit enormous damage on our nation and really jeopardize our future. And so I believe the grassroots conservative activists, the Tea Party, will be entirely united behind Mitt Romney. Now, I think once Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan win in November, I fully expect the grassroots to hold both of them accountable, for the grassroots and the Tea Party to hold me accountable and to hold every elected official accountable, because at the end of the day, it's not about any politician. It's about getting back to our founding principles, getting back to liberty and opportunity and free markets, to the constitutional protections of our God-given rights that have made the United States the freest and most prosperous nation on earth.
Now, Ted, I think you hit it on the head. Now, is it fair for us to make the assumption that come January, obviously you are going to win your own race, you're way ahead, and when Senator Cruz gets sworn in, can we make the safe assumption that you are going to be one of the chief Tea Party type spokespeople in the Congress to hold Republicans' feet to the fire and actually effecting some real change?
Absolutely. Throughout the campaign, I have looked thousands of voters in the eye and given my solemn word that I intend to help lead the effort to bring people together to dramatically shrink the size, power, and spending of the federal government. Our national debt, I agree with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who told Congress that our national debt is the greatest national security threat facing our nation. And all of us as voters, we're sick and tired of fancy campaign speeches where politicians promise to do the right thing, and they go to Washington and they become spineless jellyfish. The stakes are too high for that to happen again, and I intend to spend every waking moment helping lead the fight, rolling up our sleeves to get serious about shrinking government, turning around our national debt, and expanding freedom.
Ted, if President Obama were to get reelected on November 6th, how would you be able to work with him in trying to actually get something done?
Well, number one, I certainly hope that does not happen, to put it mildly. But number two, if it did, if Barack Obama is elected, I don't think in a second term he is going to be looking to work with anybody. In fact, I think in a second term, Barack Obama would truly be unleashed, and we would see an agenda even more radical. In fact, I think a second term would make us look back to these last 3.5 years as the halcyon days of moderate Barack Obama. If that's the case, then I have no intention of working with Barack Obama or anybody else who is putting us on a path to bankrupting our country, bankrupting our kids, destroying our future, and having the federal government take over the economy in our lives. If Barack Obama is reelected, I don't think he will, but if he is reelected and he pursues the same radical agenda or an even more radical agenda, then I will put every breath of life in me to leading the effort to stop it, to defending liberty, and that truly I cannot think of a more acute need for strong conservative leaders in the U.S. Senate to stop what would happen in a second term, and that's one of the reasons why in the state of Virginia, Virginia has a very, very close and a critical Senate race.
Yes.
George Allen is a good man, and that this race could come down to 10, 20,000 votes, and
Absolutely.
Virginia could decide if Harry Reid remains majority leader or if Republicans take a majority. And if, God forbid, Barack Obama is reelected, the last thing we want is for him to have Harry Reid controlling the Senate and protecting him and allowing him to keep driving this agenda of out-of-control spending and debt and power over our lives.
So then the question is, Ted, when are you going to come to Virginia and campaign for George Allen?
I look forward to doing that. I think Virginia is one of the critical battlegrounds, number one in the presidential race, and number two in the Senate race. And Virginia could very well decide both, could decide whether Barack Obama gets a second term and whether his radical agenda continues, and number two, whether we get a Republican majority in the Senate that will get serious about solving these problems.
It all comes down to the Commonwealth. Hey, Ted, we're out of time. We want to thank you for joining us today. Good luck on the campaign trail, and we very much look forward to having Ted Cruz campaigning in the state of Virginia. Thank you, Ted.
Excellent. Thank you, John.